so send me the link afterwards.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I was going to try to sneak in this morning. Brother Joseph had told me back during Mountain View's meeting to come see y'all more often. There's a lot of different places that I do want to go on Sunday morning. I just can't, decide where. But this morning, I felt like I needed to come here. And then Brother Joseph texted me last night and I kind of confirmed the fact. So I think the Lord means for things to happen. Hope Sister Christy gets feeling better. So glad to see you here today. So I'm assuming that things are better than what you had expected. But again, I love to come here. I hadn't heard you in a while, so I'll try not to take too long. If you turn with me to Romans chapter 8, I had a few things on my mind this morning, but my mind was kind of changed after I had got here. And just Carolyn, we were talking a while ago and about, about things, about Brother Toby and, of course, my mom and dad. And you had remembered what I had said that, I miss my mom and dad dearly. But I would never ask them to come back from the place that we're wanting to go to. That would be ridiculous. But I do miss them dearly. Very quickly, I have to tell a story about Dad. And a long time ago, remember, we all used to hang out together and go to each other's houses. You may not remember this, but Dad used to make homemade ice cream. You probably know what I'm fixing to tell. He had one of them old hand crank ice cream things, which I would, those things will wear you out. They make great ice cream. Dad finally got an electric one later, and it just didn't seem like it made it as good as what that one did. But you had to put the salt in it and the ice and crank. And I don't remember how long it took to make it. That shows how much I paid attention to it, because all I done was eat it. I don't think I wanted any part in actually making it, because it was actually very hard work. But y'all had come up, and I don't remember, Teresa, if you and Lisa was there that night. Y'all can probably tell the story better than me. But the big guy. Well, for the folks that didn't know what had happened, Dad had made a big thing of, I think it was vanilla ice cream. And everybody was kind of eating it sheepishly because nobody wanted to say anything to hurt Dad's feelings. But I can remember Toby standing up against the door facing of the living room. And I can remember my dad very nervously asking him, "Toby, is the ice cream okay?" And everybody was eating it like this, and he noticed that Toby was taking little bitty bites, barely eating it. Toby quietly shook his head no, and he said, "It's salty." It's salty. And it was very salty. Do y'all remember that? Sure enough, the cylinder had a little bitty pinhole. You could barely see it, but after years, that thing was old. It's probably older than me. And after years of making ice cream, it finally made a hole in the cylinder. So that night, everybody was trying to eat the ice cream, but Toby broke the ice, literally speaking, to let everybody know it was okay to tell Dad the ice cream tasted horrible. But it's amazing how much salt got in that. But nobody wanted to tell my father, and Dad finally asked Toby because he noticed Toby was barely eating it. And but great memories of that. Oh yes. Well, this has brought this on my mind. I had something totally different, but I won't take much time. It's kind of what was on my mind in a way, but it's right in the middle of a chapter that there could be many sermons. Romans chapter 8. If I tried to dissect this chapter today, we'd never get done with it, period. But if I tried to put Romans 8 in a nutshell, it would take me 2 or 3 hours. Romans chapter 8, most people do not realize the reason why we really need God's grace. Most people will say, yeah, I believe in salvation by grace, but when they throw that but in, it throws away every intention of what God actually done for us. It puts works in it. Keep in mind something. Titus says, not by works of righteousness which we have done, but by the washing and regeneration. Most of the time in the Bible, when the word saved is mentioned, it's not talking about heaven. It's talking about now, different scenarios. When it is talking about us cleaning our filthy flesh and getting us ready for something bigger to come, which is heaven, it mentions it in bigger terms like washing and regeneration, like what Titus says. And also Titus mentions mercy. Is this water mine? Oh, thank goodness. I have drunk so much water the last few days, it's not even funny. The thing about Titus chapter 3, verse 15, it plainly states, not by works of righteousness which we have done. You notice, works of righteousness are good works. So Paul is telling Titus, you need to understand something. It's not by good works we are saved either. And Titus mentions mercy. I don't think us old Baptists mention mercy enough. We mention grace a lot. It's by grace we're going to heaven, but it's by mercy we're not going to hell. Y'all get that? Right. But they work together. Well, Titus says by mercy. And it says not by works of righteousness. What is a work of righteousness? First of all, we're doing it right now. We're getting together, we're worshiping God, we're singing, we're praying. Hopefully you're hearing preaching now. In a minute we will be hearing preaching. Baptism to me is probably the biggest work of righteousness. You can go on and on. Anything that's good in that sense. But Paul's telling Titus not by works of righteousness which we have done. So it counts out all of that. But people want to say, yeah, I believe in salvation by grace, but if you get a full understanding of Romans chapter 8 and 9, and I think I'm getting off the text what I'm going to say, but I will mention what had brought me to mind about what we were talking about. Romans 8 and 9 kind of blows that bubble. Romans chapter 8 starts off telling us what we were before Christ. And I honestly believe that you cannot understand and appreciate the grace and mercies of God and what God has done for us unless you understand what you were without Christ. Now, you can say that in many different ways. You can say it before you were born again, all this and that or whatever. And of course, people think we have the ability to bring ourselves, to Him, which God plainly says you cannot go to God without Jesus, and then you cannot go to Jesus unless God draws you. It's one way or the other. Now, both of that is mentioned in John. But you got to understand our fallen state. You got to understand what we really are before Christ. Paul lets us know plainly, you hath He quickened who were dead in trespasses and sins. He lets us know that when we were made alive, when we were born again, before that we were dead, which means we couldn't do nothing. Does anybody here, when they were born, do y'all remember the moment you were born? Did you ask to be born? Did you ask to be conceived? You did not know about it till later. Get my point? That means that your mother and father was your mother and father whether you liked it or not. So we have a Father in heaven, and people think we can make Him our Father. But according to the Scriptures, He lets us know who He is. You'd be amazed how many of God's children don't really understand who their Father really is and what Jesus has done for them. So, I'm going to close out with this. Romans 8 starts off telling us plainly what we are before Christ. Carnal mind cannot please God. We cannot please God in the flesh. It tells us how we are doomed. Very quickly, when you go back to the Garden of Eden, you realize that when God banished Adam and Eve out of the garden, not only was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden, it was also the tree of life. So when God closed the gate, the tree of life, which represents Jesus, I'm just wondering at that time if they was able to get to the tree of life and eat that fruit, would they have been okay? Now, keep in mind something. If that was a literal tree, blah, 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 or whatever, the story, the lesson is this. Adam and Eve was banished out of the Garden of Eden, and the gates were closed, covered with flaming swords and cherubs. Now, a cherub is not some little weak little angel. There's different kinds of angels and beings that God has made. Trust me, I'm sure that angel would have sliced and diced you. When he put them swords on that gate, he did not mean for Adam and Eve to get back into the garden. In that garden was the tree of life. Who opened the gate back for us? Well, Jesus did. Now, that's a whole different sermon, but what I'm trying to say is this. When humanity fell, we fell. We were locked out from the tree of life. Y'all folks realize that God's children, whether you be Abraham's bloodline or not, and you may be or not, you're adopted. I think folks in here know what adoption means. And the state of Tennessee actually says, I believe, an adopted child has as much or more of inheritance, do they not, than what a blood child. They honor the Bible. You'd be amazed how many of the wicked honor adoption and don't realize they're doing it God's way. I said a while ago, Primitive Baptists don't preach enough on mercy. We don't preach enough on adoption, because that is the technical reason why we're in God's family. He took a fallen, hell-bound race that was already fallen and hell-bound. I've had so many people tell me, well, you Primitive Baptists believe that God chose some to heaven and some to hell. He did choose some to heaven, a lot. What about the folks that are going to hell? He left them in the state they were already in. I cannot emphasize that enough. So it's hard. Really, you're not going to fully understand and appreciate the doctrines of grace, of election, all that stuff, unless you understand the fallen state we were in to begin with. And then those things become beautiful. I've had people tell me, talking about election in Romans 9, well, that just don't seem fair. When it's in the Bible, and you'd be amazed how many people ignore that, and you'd be amazed how many different versions of the Bible have took that out. Why? Because they don't know what to do with it. Well, that's just not fair. What if I love God and I'm not one of his elect? And I say, listen, if you love God, that's already evidence that you are one of his elect. But trying to explain that when you got 5 minutes at work, when someone asks you that question, it's almost impossible. How many times have you done that, Brother Joseph? Oh, if I only had an hour, not 5 minutes, I'm going to get in trouble with the boss. Right in the middle of Romans 8. It starts off giving us bad news, then it tells us how we are brought into being his children. The end of Romans 8 is neat because in 2 or 3 verses it tells us absolutely everything in this world that we think might take us from the hands of God, but it says that none of that can hurt us. So it covers, Romans 8 covers absolutely everything about how we become a child of God, how we feel it, how we know it, and how we are protected, which means preservation. Romans 9 gets into kind of a technical detail of how God does things, and he also tells us don't question him the way he does it. There's a lot of questions about election, but God says don't say that that's unfair. Now, I've had so many people say, well, the doctrines of election are unfair, and the Bible, right after he talks about Jacob and Esau, God says, do not, forbid, say it's unfair. This is the way I do things. Now, I wish I had time to get into that. I'm going to ask y'all a question this morning. We all seem to be somewhat happy today, are we not? Regardless of what's going on with us. I know this is a silly question, but how many of y'all people have problems right now? We all do, don't we? I know y'all enough to where I can tell y'all's problems. You just lost your dear husband. Your wife is sick, and I know things are going on. I know you're struggling with rehab. I don't know about y'all, but I know there's things and quirks. I've got my problems. Listen to this verse right here. Well, let's back up just to make sure we're children of God. I know that sounds silly, but if anybody ever doubts, I'm going to ask y'all this. Y'all love Jesus, don't you? Y'all feel him in your heart, right? After asking you that, let's pretend that you doubt sometimes, am I really a child of God? This is not really for me and Brother Joseph to tell you. This is actually the reason why this Bible is written. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, this is Romans chapter 8, verse 14, they are the sons of God. What does it mean to be led by the Spirit of God? It's the Spirit putting it in your heart, telling you these things. This is not me and Brother Joseph telling you. This is you alone with God. This is you reading the Bible and realizing what you're feeling. For you have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. You notice what it said? His Spirit bears witness with our spirit and lets us know that we are the children of God. Helen Keller, she could not communicate. Finally, she was able to in some ways. But there was a missionary trying to put Christ in her heart, just like the world is trying to do around us. Helen Keller said, I know who he is. I just don't know his name. You know what she was telling him? Quit trying to put him in me. He's there. I just want to know his name. You'd be amazed how many people out here feel God and for some reason don't really know who the true Jesus really is. That's where me and Brother Joseph comes in. We're not putting Christ in you, we're telling you about it. And it's hard enough sometimes for us to do that, isn't it? His Spirit beareth witness with your spirit. He's the one that lets you know. But a lot of people don't read their Bibles, so a lot of people don't realize it. Why is this Bible so important? It's so we can read it and realize this is what's happening to me. But the Bible is so misread and so misunderstood, and John 3:16 is thrown on every billboard for the very wrong reasons. It becomes a scare tactic. If you read John 3:16 at a glance, it will scare you if you don't read the rest of the chapter and realize that it's not telling you how to get born again, it's telling you that you are. It's a good news verse, but read at a glance and taken out of context, it becomes scary, doesn't it? So you read it at a glance on a billboard, and, oh Lord, I'm going to hell if I don't. Seriously, that is the key of it, along with many other verses that they try to post like that. Now listen to this. If children, then heirs of God and joint heirs of Christ. You know what that means? You're going to have exactly what Christ has got in heaven. I don't know what he's got up there, but it's got to be nice, so I'm not going to question it. Jesus, you really got something up there I like? Don't ask him that. Listen to this closely. For every one of you that have sorrow, that have problems. For I reckon, and I've always liked to say this, I always thought that was a Southern slang term. It's in the Bible. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time, and it means the sum of all matter. It means this is it. It doesn't mean I guess. I think we always use it as a term. I reckon that when we say it like that, we really don't know what we're talking about, do we? Well, when it says I reckon in the Bible, it means this is true. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that should be revealed in us. So it's saying that no matter how bad it gets here, no matter how much sorrow you feel now, the glory that we will have someday, it cannot be compared to it. Jesus said, in this world you'll have tribulation. You know, these are the last words he told his disciples before they arrested him. He had just gave them a bunch of good news and said, I'm going home to prepare a place for you. But his disciples immediately said, where are you going? How are we going to go? Jesus just told them, I told you I'm coming back for you. Didn't you listen? It shows how quick they understood that later. Y'all realize y'all understand John chapter 14 better than what his disciples did at the moment? It's kind of neat, isn't it? Seriously. We understand it. We know he's coming back. His disciples heard him say, I'm coming back for you. I'm going home to prepare a mansion. Oh my goodness. Oh, how do we get there? Where are you going? I just told you where I was going. So it went right over their head, right? Well, he told them a bunch of good news. He told them the Comforter was coming down to be with them. The very last thing that he said to them that is written before they arrested him was this. In this world, you'll have tribulation. You know what that means? It's not going to be easy. Jesus didn't write us blindly. But he said, be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. That verse has a little bit of bad news and it has a whole lot of good news. This world is going to stink. But I'll be with you. Hang on, I'm coming back. That's more or less what Jesus said in those last 3 chapters leading up to his arrest. It's only mentioned in John. Back to that verse. The sufferings of this present time cannot be compared to the glory in heaven. It's like this. I've always said, and I hope and pray that this is the right analogy. God's scales is so much different than ours. If you have a weighing scale and you put 10 pounds on one side, 15 on the other, what's going to happen? It's going to tilt, right? Well, God's scales are like this. Let's say you have 10 things that happen to you in your life, okay? Let's say 8 of them are not good. Put them on one side. Say 2 of them are great and God blessed you with them. Put them on the other side. On God's scale, them 2 is going to outweigh the 8 bad. You ever notice with all the sorrow that we have in our life, God will give you days of a little bit of joy that will outweigh all. Does that make sense? You nailed it a while ago when you said, in times like this, we learn, I miss my mom and dad. But I dwell on the past and on the things we used to do together. See, in God's kingdom, the good always outweighs the bad, no matter how bad the bad gets. It doesn't make sense to the rest of the world. So when you have a little bit of joy, it tends to wipe away all sorrows, doesn't it? That's God's way of keeping us sane here and keeping us happy until the time that his son comes home. I hope and pray what I've said today has been to the glory of God. Come here, Brother Joseph. I didn't mean to take much time. I knew I'd forget it.
Yeah, Ralph turns me to the book of Colossians chapter 1. So we've been working our way through. Tonight, this morning, we'll start at verse 13. who hath delivered us from the power of darkness and hath translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins. Talked about those verses Wednesday night. This, of course, being Jesus Christ. He's the one that saved us from our sins, shed his blood for you. That's the reason why I started there, is to let us in on the next verse. Who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. Later on in this book of Colossians, it says, in him dwells the fullness of the Godhead bodily. You see, here's one thing that was going on in that day. It was a group of people called Gnostics. Not agnostics like we have today, but Gnostics. They said that Jesus Christ didn't actually have a physical body. He actually didn't die. To me, that makes no sense at all. And the Apostle Paul is addressing these things very much in this book of Colossians, that Jesus Christ was a man, 100% man, 100% God. In the book of the first epistle of John, he said that we handled the very word of life. In other words, John said that we could touch him, we could feel him, he was there. He wasn't a spirit, not an apparition, not a feeling. He was God in a body that you could touch, a body that could feel the infirmities that you feel, right? That the Son of God, Jesus Christ, knew what it was to be hungry. He knew what it was to feel pain. He knew what it was to, we've talked about Brother Toby and the funerals and everything. He knew what it was like to be at a funeral or at the grave of a loved one. He was at Lazarus' tomb. Of course, he raised him from the dead, but he knew what it was. I mean, he felt sorrow. Do we feel? I mean, we feel sorrow too, right? But he was the image of the invisible God. In other words, that we can't physically see God right now. And if we did, we couldn't stand in the presence of it, because he told Moses, you can't see me and live. Okay? We couldn't stand in the presence of God and live. And even when the Lord showed him his hinder parts, it changed the image of Moses himself. He glowed. They had to put a veil over his head. That just amazes me. I couldn't even imagine. What about y'all? But this, Jesus Christ, had a body like everyone else's. That's why Judas had to betray him. Because Jesus looked like everybody around him. He didn't have any features that stood out. He looked like a Jewish man, a Jewish carpenter of that time frame. He wasn't any taller. He wasn't any slimmer. He looked like we do. The difference was he had no sin. Never sinned one time in this life. Otherwise, his sacrifice wouldn't be any good. That blood wouldn't be worth anything if it had sin in it. The firstborn of every creature. Everything that you see came from the Creator, Jesus Christ. And once again, I've said it a lot, this is one of my favorite topics. I love talking about the idea of God that created and how he created. Verse 16, it says, for by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him. It says all things you see and all things you don't see. Now think about that for just a moment. Everybody here can take a big, deep breath, right? Well, God made that air and you don't see it, right? Now sometimes you can see the air moving, calling wind, but you don't really see it, right? But I sure am thankful it's there. Very thankful it's there. I enjoy the air most of the time. There could be something that don't go right, but He created that for you. And then you have the things that you see. I mean, and things that we've been blessed to do here at this church. I mean, the inside of this and the outside of this church looks very nice, right? And our homes and everything. But it starts with the creation that God made on day one. And Jesus Christ was there. The Gospel of John chapter 1 says, in the beginning was the Word. That is Jesus Christ. John also calls him that in the book of the first epistle, John chapter 5, verse 7. For there are three that bear record, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost. These three are one. So the Word is Jesus Christ. It's the Son of God. The Word. And it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And there again it says, all things that were made by Him. So when God said, let there be light, Jesus Christ was there creating as well. When God said, let this happen, and it happened, Jesus Christ was there. When God said, let us make man in our image, He was speaking with the Son and the Holy Ghost. These three are one. They're one in unity. They're one in power. They're one in everything. But God in three persons. And that's just something I just can't wrap my mind around. The normal man can't wrap his mind around the immenseness of how big your God really is. And He created everything that you see with such precision that life, that Lee Strobel says this, one of my favorite non-primitive Baptist authors, she says that life is set on a razor's edge. From the force of gravity. He explains it this way. Let me go off on this. Let's say that you had a ruler stretched across the entire 20 million light years of the entire universe, divided up in 1-inch increments. That's a lot of inches, right? I mean, I couldn't even do the math on that. And on that scale, on that ruler, is anywhere you could place the pressure of gravity, the law of gravity, the constants of gravity. If you change that equation by 1 inch, just slide it over 1 inch across the entire expanse of the universe, everything collapses or flies apart. The strong nuclear force that holds atoms together, that holds those oxygen atoms that you take in together, the force that it causes hydrogen to collect with oxygen to make H2O or water. And the precision of that is even closer. The precision of that is like throwing a dart from the moon to Earth and hitting a target the size of an atom. I mean, think about how precise that is. That everything had to be exactly right. There's only a little section of the Milky Way that life can even exist. You know, if there's other stars with other planets, well, there might be. I don't know that. If there are, I know who put them there. Well, God did, right? And it's oddly enough that there's only one space on the Milky Way where life can actually exist, and that's where you are. That's not by accident, folks. That's by a creator. And it's done on purpose. Jesus Christ didn't do anything by accident. He did all by purpose. He created everything after the counsel of his own will. And you think about all the things and all the things that we do on this earth. You know, in my mind, with the expanse of how big the universe is, it seems so small, right? But God knows everything about it, to the minutest detail. That God created it all by himself, by his own mind and his own will. He didn't have to consult anybody. He had to do it on his own, though. There was no one else there to help and no material there to help. That God spoke it, and it was so. God said, let it happen, and it happened. No mistakes, right? Nothing was made wrong on this earth. Now, it's sin cursed now because of us. But when he made everything, at the end of making it all, he said it was good and yea, very good. God made everything and made it good and very good. Then it says, for by him were all things created, they're in heaven, they're in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions, or principalities or powers. Do you know that it says in the book of Proverbs that the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord? Can the Lord bless and tear down the principalities and powers that we know? Can the Lord direct those things? Give me an example of that. Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar had a problem with pride, guys. I mean, he had a lot of problems with pride, okay? His image that he set up in Daniel chapter 3 was his own image. And then in the 4th chapter, the Lord's going to humble him because he's looking and saying, look what great things I have done. Look at what I created and what I brought about. Me, I've done it all. Look at what I did. Look what I did. I made it perfect. And the Lord said, I'll let you. And then Nebuchadnezzar went out and ate grass like an oxen. His hair grew like bird feathers and his claws like eagle's claws. And he passed over him 7 times. Can you imagine what the people of Babylon thought about? I mean, think about this. Where's your king, Nebuchadnezzar? He's out there in the field eating grass, and look at him. He looks absolutely ridiculous. Looks like an animal. Is God able to raise up and tear down kingdoms? And kings and princes and all those things? Absolutely. All things were created by him and for him. Now let me make this statement. God did not have to make earth. Okay? He didn't have to make you. He didn't have to make me. Was he perfect in every way without the earth? Why did he do it? Why did he create heavens and earth? And why did he suffer and die on the cross? Why did he do all these things? For his own honor and glory. That's all. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that he created us, right? Are you thankful that God made people? And he selected the people to go with him in glory? I'm thankful for it. But he created it for his glory. To show his greatness is why he made everything that you see. All things were created by him and for him. All things were created by Jesus Christ for his own glory. Not my glory. Not the glory of the church. I love the church, but it's not for its glory. It's for his glory. The central foundation of the church. is for his glory, for him. It says, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist. The God goes into eternity past. God had no start. Has no beginning. God has no beginning. Now it's been proven scientifically that the universe did begin to exist at one point in the past. When Einstein was putting together his theory of relativity, when he discovered that it's likely that the universe had a beginning point, he thought he had made a mistake in his theory, in his equation. Because he thought the universe was eternal. Well, the universe began to exist at one point in the past. Yeah, I believe the Bible supports it's about 6,500 years ago. Where did it start? It started from God. And when he decided to create. I've heard it said this way. Time is a short pause in eternity. God's not bound by time, guys. But God created time for you. And think about how precise time is. I mean, the years are exactly the same, right? We have summer, spring. We have summer, fall, winter, spring. Every year, right? Right on time. Yeah, I mean, there are times that it kind of seems like it comes early. Because I can remember a few times, twice actually, I was at Brother Ronnie and Sister Carolyn's house hanging out with Johnny on Halloween. And it snowed. And then it happened again since I've been married, because we took Bryson trick-or-treating one year, and it snowed on Halloween again, on a Friday night during a high school football game. And they couldn't believe it either. But I've also had Halloweens that was near 80 degrees. I've had times that it was 80 degrees in March. The year me and my wife started building the house we're in now, it was hot that spring break week. I mean, it was nearly summer-like weather. But it's always near the same time every year, right? Overall, typically in January and February, it's cold. In Tennessee, you don't know what you're going to get March through May. You know, we're in the summer. During July, it's hot. Like it is every year in July, usually. To a point. And all this was set in motion by Creator. That is that precise. Before all things, and what else did? Let me see if this. And now most of you know this answer to this question, but I'm going to see if it reminds you. What did he do before the world began? He was there before the world began, right? He is before all things. In that time frame, he chose a people. According as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world. And says he was ordained before the foundation of the world to come forward and shed his blood for you. All of it set in motion before the world began. Now let me back this up though a little bit. He didn't predestinate all events. He did not predestinate the wrong things that I've done. He didn't predestinate all the troubles and trials and all the things like that. He didn't predestinate weather. Now, can he control weather at a moment's notice? Absolutely. Does he always? No. Right on cue. Starts raining. I didn't cause that, guys. Could God cause that? Maybe. If he wants to, just show what we're talking about. See, here's the thing. When Elijah went out and sat under the juniper tree and then went to a cave, there was a great wind. the Lord was not in the wind. There was an earthquake. He wasn't in the earthquake. There was a fire. He wasn't in the fire. All these things were not caused by God, but he was always there and can control it. Just because he can doesn't mean he will. You see where I'm coming from with that? He has the ability. He said when he was in the boat, when that storm came on Galilee, he said, "Peace be still," and it obeyed, right? But does he do that all the time? Not necessarily. It's not a point of whether he can, it's a question of whether he did or not. Might make us think if he does, right? In the church at Colossae, the church at Corinth also had some troubles with this, and some of the churches in the book of Revelations had trouble with the people that said that Jesus Christ didn't come in the flesh. It was just an apparition. Well, let me tell you something. Jesus Christ is God. And he did come in the flesh, but he was still 100% God. I don't know about y'all, I have a hard time grasping this, right? That God was 100% man, but he's also God. God incarnate. The God that has done all things well now has a body. And I want to tell you something else. He was able to lay that body down and take it up again on your behalf. Why is that? Because it's his own creation, guys. And he had the power to create it. And I believe he has the power to operate it. Now, once again, not to say that everything that happens in your life is predestinated of God or was caused by God or permitted by God. But to say that he has the ability to do all things well. And has done all things well. Because he decided to create. And then when he created, when he came to this earth, you could see the Creator. I'll close with a note from a song. One of my favorite songs is not a hymn that we have. It's Mary, Did You Know? Did you know that your baby boy is the great I Am? That's an amazing thought, isn't it? You know, you talked about Christmas time. We have a lot of things that show the birth of Christ, and that's one of the songs that comes up quite often. That you see that baby boy is the great I Am. And then the Jesus Christ that's on that cross is the great I Am as well. That loved you enough to go there. May the Lord bless you and keep you, as I pray.